Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Weird Lily's Lounge.
Hey y'all. Hey.
Hi.
On today's episode, it's the fourth episode, so that means it's a new Pandora's box opening, and we have a new subject to talk about. And today's subject is hopefully this doesn't come up backwards. The unexplained. Yes, I drew this. I drew all of it. The little guy.
Woo! It's lovely. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love
I
it.
love
We're going to be talking about all sorts of aliens and unexplained mysteries, government files that we can find. So, for this episode, we're going to talk about aliens. And the human race has always been fascinated with aliens. Aliens is part of our pop culture today. We talk about it in our history. Some people believe that aliens were a big impact on our human civilization. We see it in movies. Lots and lots of movies love to show aliens. They have aliens that are all Star Warsy aliens. We have lots of Star Wars aliens, even little Yoda there. And of course, who couldn't forget Chewbacca?
it. Oh,
And
Chewy's my favorite. I love Chewy.
oh, I knew you would love Chewie. We even do Star Trek aliens and even
That's right up my alley. The
monstrous
Trekkie.
evil aliens that will impregnate you and force you to have their babies. But then we have aliens that want to pursue war and such, or aliens that just want to take over our world. There are all sorts of kinds of aliens. And in today's episode, well, with my topic at least, I am going to be talking about the gray aliens. And I'll pull up a quick picture real fast. Oh, of course, I wasn't ready at this point.
Gray aliens are the ones that scare me the most, to be honest.
There was a little movie with Seth Rogen. Is there a way?
Okay, he doesn't scare me though.
This had to be one of the funniest movies I have ever
That was
seen.
such a good movie, though. It was such a.
But we're not talking about this kind of alien. We are talking about some alien that he is technically based off of, and that is this guy right here. This black-eyed,
No,
gray
those are the
skin.
scary ones.
That legitimately is the stuff of my nightmares.
I found a lot of information. There is a whole vast information about the Greys, and let's just dive right on in. So, gray aliens are also referred to as Zeta Reticulans, Roswell Greys, or just the Greys, and are purported extraterrestrial beings. They are frequent subjects of close encounters and alien abduction claims. The details of such claims vary widely, but typically, gray aliens are described as being human like, with small bodies, with smooth, gray colored skin, hence the name gray, enlarged, hairless heads. Look at that head, man. That man has a big brain. That man knows a lot of things in this galaxy.
Noggin score.
And the black eyes. The Barney and Betty Hill abduction claim, which purportedly took place in New Hampshire in 1961, popularized the gray aliens. Precursor figures have been described in science fiction, and similar descriptions appeared in early accounts of the 1948 Aztec UFO hoax and later accounts of the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. So, the Roswell alien was considered a gray alien. The gray alien has emerged as an archetype pal image of an intelligent non-human creature and extraterrestrial life in general, as well as a iconic trope of popular culture with the age of space exploration. The appearance, well, we've already said, are typically depicted as gray-skinned, with short humanoid beings that possess reproductive parts, as we know, and they just hold noses, ears, and if there are sex organs and they're hidden, of course, humans want to know about the sex of a gray alien. That's just
Humans want to know about the sex of everything.
yes,
It's complex at this point.
it's a complex. Um, their bodies are usually depicted as being elongated, having a small chest, and lacking in muscular definition. The visible skeletal structure. Their legs are depicted as being shorter and jointed differently from humans, with limbs proportionally different from a regular human. Greys are depicted as having unusually large heads in proportion to their bodies, with no hair on their body and no noticeable outer ears, or the only thing they have is the eyes and slits for noses. Greys are almost always shown with very large optical black eyes. They are frequently described as shorter than the average adult human. The reason why they are associated with Zeta Reticula. Zeta Reticula is a constellation or a planetary system that our scientists have or astronomers have found today. The association between gray aliens and Zeta Reticula originated with the interpretation of a map drawn by Betty Hill by the school teacher named Marjorie Fish sometime in 1969. Betty Hill, under hypnosis, had claimed to have been shown a map that displayed the aliens' home system and nearby stars. Upon learning of this, Fish attempted to create a model from a drawing produced by Hill, eventually determining that this star map is marked as the aliens' home, where Zeta Reticula is a binary star system. So it's a real area. Our astronomers found it.
Fascinating.
The origins.
Well, if we think about it, the cosmos are infinite to our
It's
knowledge.
expanding nothingness, and the expanding nothingness is getting bigger. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, but it does in the most weird way. Like,
It really does, though. If you think about it, it's expanding nothingness. Nothingness can do nothing but expand.
Who knows how maybe there is a Star Wars galaxy out there. If there is, I want to be a Jedi, and you can find your Chewbacca.
Yes.
I want to beam me up, Scotty, please and thank you. Anytime now.
You're a
Please.
Star Trekkie. I love you, Kay. The origins of the gray alien may go back to the late 19th century. In 1891, the novel Meta, A Tale of the Future, was published by Kenneth Foulesbury, in which the narrator encountered small gray skinned aliens with balloon shaped heads. In 1893, H.G. Wells presented a description of humanity's future appearance in the article The Man of the Year Million, describing humans as having no mouths, noses, or hair, and with large heads. In 1895, Wells also depicted the Eloi, a successor species to the humanity, in similar terms in the novel The Time Machine. If anyone has read The Time Machine or seen the movie The Time Machine, I definitely recommend it. It is a fantastic piece of media. As early as 1917, the occultist Aleister Crowley described a meeting with the preternatural entity named Lamb that was similar in appearance to the modern gray. His name was Lamb.
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 Okay. Like furry lamb or
No, just Lamb.
okay.
I mean, I've heard weirder. I can't judge. I've heard weirder. So
yeah.
Crowley believed he had contacted the entity through a process that he called the Emelantra workings, which he thought allowed humans to contact beings from outer space and across dimensions. Other occultists and UFO logists may have retroactively linked Lamb to later Gray encounters have since described their own visitations from him, with one describing as being a cold, computer-like intelligence and utterly beyond human comprehension. That makes sense in a way. I mean, if there's aliens coming down from our sky and they've discovered the power to hyperspace or hyperdimensional travel, I don't think they're going to have. They might have some of our emotions, but I feel like it would be more higher, if that makes sense.
I feel like they'd be able to detach emotions between discoveries and stuff in that
Yeah.
sense. You know,
I feel like
emotions have their place and intelligence has its place.
like Spock. Like
Yeah,
Spock.
exactly, like Spock. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who Spock is. There's a quote. The quote is I know who Spock is, but I don't.
Guys,
He does the.
do we need to kick him off?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Hey, may the force be with you all the way. I don't know what
I mean,
you
that's
mean.
fine. You can be both. I am both. You can be both. Calm down. What is wrong with you?
I'm not starting a war. I promise. I promise.
You just finished your little Star Wars self, so go ahead. Go ahead.
May the force be with you, Jen. So there's a quote from Gustava Sandgren in The Unknown Danger. Quote, the creatures did not resemble any race of humans. They were shorter than the average Japanese, and their heads were big and bald and with strong, square foreheads and very small noses and mouths and weak chins. What was most extraordinary about them were the eyes, large, dark, gleaming with a sharp gaze. They wore clothes made of a soft gray fabric, and their limbs seemed to be similar to those of humans. End quote. That is from, again, like I said, Gustav Sandgren. It's known as The Unknown Danger. It's from 1933.
Which is why it's written the way it is. It's not politically correct. It's it's a little yeah.
It's just a quote that I found.
Oh, I know.
And people from 1933 were interesting.
Racist.
There we go. That's what we want to say.
It's racist.
It's racist.
Fine.
It's racist.
But that's not how we feel. So
that
we're
not
just
how we
moving forward.
Exactly.
In 1933, the Swedish novelist Gustavus Sandgren, using the pen name Gabriel Linde, published a science fiction novel called Den Okanda Faran, or also known as The Unknown Danger, in which he describes a race of extraterrestrials who wear clothes made of the soft gray fabric, and they were short with big bald heads and large, dark, gleaming eyes. The novel, aimed at young readers, included illustrations of the imaged aliens. This description would become the template upon which the popular image, the gray aliens, are based off of. Now, of course, there is an account for an abduction, and it's the famous Barney and Betty Hill. Barney and Betty. The conception remained a niche one until 1965, when newspaper reports of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction made the archetype famous. The alleged abductees, Betty and Barney Hill, claimed that in 1961, humanoid alien beings with grayish skin had abducted them and taken them away to a flying saucer. In his 1990 article, Entirely Unpredisposed, Martin Kottmeyer suggested that Barney's memories revealed under hypnosis might have been influenced by an episode of the science fiction television show The Outer Limits, titled the Bellero Shield, which was broadcasted 12 days before Barney's first hypnotic session. The episode featured an extraterrestrial with large eyes who says, "In all the universe, in all the in all of the universes, in all of the unites beyond the universes, all who have eyes that speak." That was a mouthful. I don't know.
That
Is
was a
that
lot.
indicating that there's telepathy, as in like they see past us, so there's no need for communication? It's nonverbal at that point.
Right.
Maybe.
That's what I get anyway.
In all of the universes and all of the unties beyond the universes, all who have eyes that speak.
It's actually a beautiful quote. Like when you listen, when you break it down, it's beautiful. Um, but it means that they don't have to speak with their voice.
But it's from a TV show, though.
Yeah.
Still beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful. The report from the regression featured a scenario that was in some respects similar to the television show. In part, Kottmeyer wrote, "Wraparound eyes are an extreme rarity in science fiction films. I know of only one instance. They appeared on the alien of an episode of an old TV series, The Outer Limits, entitled The Bellero Shield. A person familiar with Barney's sketch in the Interpreted Journal and the sketch done in collaboration with the artist David Baker will find a frisson of deja vu creeping up with his spine when seeing this episode. The resemblance is much abetted by the absence of ears, hair, and the nose on both aliens. Could it be by chance? Consider this. Barney first described and drew the wraparound eyes during the hypnosis session dated the 22nd of February, 1964. The Bellero Shield was first broadcasted on the 10th of February, 1964. Only 12 days separate the two instances. If the identification is omitted, the commonness of a wraparound eyes in the abduction literature falls to cultural forces. Quote by Martin Kottmeyer in the entirely unpredisposed the cultural background of UFO reports. So he could have just been scared of a TV show and it kind of frightened him and such.
Yeah, but what are the odds now? And what year was that again?
So it was 1964.
What are the odds though that they saw the show the first time? It like, is that a time when people made sure to watch something?
I would say so. I feel like it would be a family thing. Everyone sit in front of a small screen and see what's on.
I don't know. That's why I'm curious. I wonder if, did they ever ask the man if he saw it?
That I got no quote on that.
Did they just assume that he saw it and thought they correlated because it had to have been from that? That's a good question. That's a really good question.
A way to debunk the situation, most definitely. Carl Sagan echoed Kottmeyer's suspicions in his 1997 book, The Demon Haunted World Science, as a candle in the dark, where invaders from Mars was cited as another potential inspiration. Now, there's diffusion into folklore. After the Hills encounter, Greys would go on to become an integral part of UFOlogy and other extraterrestrial related folklore. This is particularly true in the case of the United States, according to journalist C.D.B. Bryan. 73% of all reported alien encounters in the United States describe little gray aliens, a significant higher proportion than other countries. During the early 1980s, Greys were linked to the alleged crash landing of a flying saucer in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. A number of publications contained statements from individuals who claimed to have seen the U.S. military handling a number of unusual proportioned, bald, child-sized beings. These individuals claimed during and after the incident that the beings had oversized heads and slanted eyes, but scant other distinguishable facial features. In 1987, novelist Whitley Striebley published the book The Communion, which, unlike his previous works, was categorized as nonfiction and in which he describes a number of close encounters he alleges to have experienced with Greys and other extraterrestrial beings. The book became a New York Times bestseller, and New Line Cinema released a 1989 film adaptation that starred Christopher Walken as Strieber. Not Christopher Walken.
Hey, I love Christopher Walken. You leave him out of this.
He is an alien. I'm sorry. He is an alien in human skin. The time that we are in right now. Who talks like that? Okay, I should digress. I'm no hate for Christopher Walken. I take it back. In 1988, Christophe, oh, it's French name. This is a big name. Christophe Decavani interviewed the French science fiction writer and UFOologist Jimmy Gooey. Gooey. That's a name. Jimmy Gooey. During a weekly French TV live show, which at the time was entitled Cielmon Marty. It was broadcasted by TF1, one of the 3 national TV channels in France. Besides mentioning Majestic 12, Jimmy Gooey described the existence of what he called the Little Greys, which later on became known in French under the name as Les Petits Gris. Gooey later wrote 2 docudramas using as a plot the Gray Aliens, Majestic 12 conspiracy theory, as described by John Lear and Milton William Cooper. The series EBE for Extraterrestrial Biological Entity, Alert Rogue, first part, 1990, and EBE Lynette Nor de Andamaca, second part, 1991. Greys have since become the subject of many conspiracy theories. Many conspiracy theorists believe that Greys represent part of the government-led disinformation or plausible, deniable campaign, or that they are a product of government mind control experiments. During the 1990s, popular culture also began to increasingly link Greys to a number of military-industrial complex and the New World Order conspiracy theories. Trying to get all the countries together is a gray alien plan. We're not going to get political here. In 1995, filmmaker Ray Santilli claimed to have obtained 22 reels of 16 millimeter film that depicted the autopsy of a real gray alien, supposedly recovered from the site of the 1947 incident in Roswell. In 2006, though Santilli announced that the film was not original, but was instead a reconstruction, created after the original film was found to have degraded. He maintained that a real gray had been found in an autopsy on camera in 1947, and that the footage released to the public contained a percentage of that original footage. Now, in close encounter claims and UFOlogy, Greys are often involved in alien abduction claims. Among reports of the alien encounters, Greys make up about 50% in Australia, 73% in the United States, 48% in the continental Europe, and around 125 in the United Kingdom. These reports include 2 distinct groups of Greys that differ in height, one being tall, the other one being short. So perhaps there is just different subspecies of these Greys. Abduction claims are often described as extremely traumatic, similar to an abduction by humans or even a sexual assault in the level of trauma and distress. This is where a lot of people get the probing thing from. The emotional impact of the perceived abductions can be as great as that of combat, sexual abuse, and other traumatic events. The eyes are often a focus of abduction claims, which often describe a gray staring into the eyes of an abductee when conducting mental procedures. This staring is claimed to induce hallucination states or directly provoke different emotions. So it does not sound like a fun time.
No, and they're using ESP to manipulate you and your body.
Yeah, it's a
No,
no.
thank you.
No.
That's a no for me.
Yep. You read my mind. Psychocultural expression of intelligence, where neurologist Stephen Novella proposes that gray aliens are a byproduct of the human imagination, with the gray's most distinctive features representing everything that modern humans traditionally link with intelligence. Quote, the aliens, however, do not just appear as humans, they appear like humans with those traits we psychologically associate with intelligence, end quote. The other idea is the mother hypothesis. In 2005, Frederick V. Malmstrom, writing in Skeptic Magazine, Volume 11, issue 4, presents his idea that grays are actually residual memories of early childhood development. Maelstrom reconstructs the face of a gray through transformation of a mother's face based on our best understanding of early childhood sensations and perception. Maelstrom's study offers another alternate to the existence of the grays, the intense, instinctively response many people experience when presenting an image of a gray, and the active regression, hypnosis, and recovered memory therapy in recovering memories of alien abduction experiences, along with their common themes. That was a mouthful. It has also been proposed that the grays are actually distorted memories of traumatic experiences faded with time, especially according to the studies by Maelstrom and similar researchers. Quote, it's easier to imagine being abducted by alien creatures than to face the traumatic memories of being bullied by peers or assaulted by an aggressive person, end quote.
That doesn't seem, that seems far fetched.
That seems pretty. Yeah, that's a stretch Armstrong right there. So
Yeah, that was a reach.
That was a reach. There definitely was a mouthful of words, and I hope it made sense there. Another one is the evolutionary impossibility. According to the biologist Jack Cohen, the typical image of a gray, assuming that it would have evolved from a world with different environmental and ecological conditions from Earth, is too uh, philosophically similar to a human to be credible as a representation of alien. Excuse me. I burped and I don't know what that was. I burped and I hiccuped at the same time.
Physiologically.
That is the correct word there. Depictions of gray aliens have gone on to appear in a number of films and television shows, such as The Benevolent Aliens and the 1977 film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. During the 1990s, plot lines where grays were linked to conspiracy theories became common. A well known example was the Fox television series The X Files, which first aired in 1993. It combined the quest to find proof of the existence of gray like extraterrestrials with a number of UFO conspiracy theory subplots to form its primary story arc. Other notable examples include the XCOM video games franchise, Dark Skies, first broadcasted in 1996, which expanded upon the MJ12 conspiracy, and Stargate SG1, which in the episode of 1998's Thor's Chariot introduced the Asgard, a race of benevolent greys who visited ancient Earth masquerading as characters from Norse mythology. Looking at you over there, Loki.
What? What? I
They
okay.
said that in a Stargate SG-1, it's Thor's chariot. Where was I at? Roger Smith, a regular character on the animated comedy series American Dad, since its debut in 2005, is a gray-like alien who is connected to both the Roswell UFO incident and Area 51 conspiracy theories. And then also in Babylon 5, the Greys were referred to as the Vree and depicted as being allies and traded partners of the 23rd century Earth. And like we were talking about earlier, the 2011 film Paul tells the story of a Grey who attributes the Greys' frequent presence in science fiction pop culture to the US government deliberately inserting the stereotypical Grey alien image into mainstream media so that if humanity came into contact with Paul's species, no immediate shock would occur as to their appearance. And then there's another thing that they're talking about, that Greys have a relationship with another alien species known as the Reptoids. It's usually more complex, although it's frequently believed that the Greys themselves might be both reptilian and genetically modified in origin, and that they're employed, or in some sources explicitly enslaved, to act as researching workforce and do the other race's bidding. Conversely, alternate ideas abound, including some pictures that Greys as benevolent, time traveling descendants of humans whose main purpose is to monitor and guide the development of their ancestors. So there's the talks of them being workers for the reptilians, or they're a evolutionary byproduct of the human race from the future, and they're just time traveling to make sure we don't fuck up our world. Well,
What if they're both?
we could be.
I mean, what if they're both Greys and, like you said, reptilians and Greys can exist both in both ways?
What if
As
there's
a matter of
thousands
fact,
more?
reptilians is what I have brought to the table tonight. It's reptoids.
Well, I will pass the torch off to you now because I'm excited to hear about reptoids.
They're also called draconians. And the reason they're called draconians is because it's believed that the reptoids are inherently from the constellation Draco. It's one of the 88 modern constellations and you can actually see the constellation Draco from the human eye. So they believe that reptilians or reptoids or draconians come from them. They are described as 6 to 8 foot tall bipedal reptile humanoids that can shapeshift and change DNA of people. Okay, so there's this man. I have a picture of him if you'll pull it up for me, Steve. His name is David Icke. He was is a well-known commentator and proponent of the
David
theory.
Icke?
David Icke, yes.
All right.
And that would be him. That would be David Icke. He is the proponent of the theory that we are descended from reptilians and that the human race is now secretly controlled by them. Okay. It's believed that there are wars all around the world, all around the constellations, and reptilians are here on this planet hiding out. Okay. Now, there is documentation as far back as ancient Egyptian times, and is believed to be tied to the Freemasons as well as the Illuminati. You can take that picture down now, Steve. Now,
I have heard some of the theories that they intertie with just the creation of our current society.
yes, they're very tied into. He believes in his theories that the reptoid species can be accounted for all throughout history. Claims that they are the same beings as the Anunnaki from the Babylonian creation story. and the fallen angels or the watchers that mated with human women in the Bible. So they can be marked back. It's believed that they excuse me, it's believed that they can be marked back as far back as Sumerian, Egyptian, biblical times. So he believes that a genetically modified human reptoid hybrid race of shape-shifting aliens, aka the Babylonian Brotherhood, or aka the Illuminati. Yes, he means the Illuminati themselves are the race of reptilian aliens. Yeah.
At this point, I wouldn't put it past the Illuminati at all. At all.
The Illuminati. That sounds reptilian, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. They are said to manipulate global events to keep full control and keep humans in constant fear so that the reptoids can feed off of our negative energy. Yeah, that's kind of creepy. He claims that the first breeding programs took place 200 to 300,000 years ago, even perhaps creating what we know as Adam.
Did you just say breeding?
Yes.
Breeding programs, not just breeding programs.
Yes. Breeding programs.
Oh, boy.
He claims that the latest breeding program took place some 7,000 years ago. That's where the hybrids he suggests are now the ones currently running the world. He believes there are many reptoids in high positions running things now. His list is extensively long, but among some of them I pulled out were the Obamas, Joe Biden, Mark Zuckerberg, Madonna, Katy Perry, Queen Elizabeth II, of course, Donald Trump, and many, many, many more. But if you think about it,
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, I mean, you think about people up in high positions throughout. There's conspiracy theories throughout the Illuminati, the Masons, and all of that. Anyway, so you throw in reptilian aliens, and you've got a party. But
True.
the first I have two videos to show you. The first video I have to show you is that the Nashville bomber actually believed his theory so deeply that it may have played a part in his actions. Among other conspiracies, he said that 9/11 was supposed to be the end game of the planet and the media covered it up. He also believed that they could tweak our DNA and make it to where we could see them as normal. So if you'll watch this is the where they talk about the Nashville bomber and how he talked about the reptilian aliens. There's no sound. No. Oh, hang on. Technical difficulties, guys. Okay, I may not be able to show you this video. Okay, anyway, the Nashville bomber reported that he believed that the reptilian aliens were part of all of the government, that they were in. You can take that down now, Steve. That they were in part of all the government conspiracies, and they were.
Was that not the right video?
It is the right video, but the sound's not working.
The sound wasn't coming through. Sometimes it works,
on my
sometimes it
end.
doesn't. It wasn't
on ours.
The video, but it's all right.
It's fine. We'll move on. It's no big deal. I have another video. Hopefully it will play. If not, I have some for ways to spot a reptoid. This is if you come encounter people that you believe may be reptoids or draconians. Predominance of green, hazel, or blue eyes that change in color are one of them.
Don't look at me.
True red hair.
Shut up.
Low blood
knew it.
pressure.
I knew it.
No.
You are not.
God, no.
Keen
Stop.
You're a
sight.
goddamn alien, aren't you?
Keen sight or hearing. Extrasensory perception. UFO connections. Love of space and science, of course, that has to be in there. Why not? A sense of not belonging to the human race. Deep compassion for fate of mankind.
You're a goddamn alien, Kay.
Psychic abilities, unexplained scars on your body, capable of disrupting electrical appliances, and having had alien contact. So those are one of the many ways you can spot reptoid in your presence.
Don't look at me.
Also, I think
can we say that I'm also one if we get down to brass tacks? I am as well.
I think I fixed the audio, so we can try to play that video again if you want me to.
If you want to try, that would be fine.
That way, because I think I know I was muted on my end. I wonder if that was the reason why.
Maybe that's why.
Hopefully that sound didn't get in there. My computer just alerted me to some. All right. Let me know if you can hear it.
For the blast, Anthony Warner mailed a package to someone in Murfreesboro just days before the bombing. That man immediately turned it over to the FBI. Investigative reporter Ben Hall shares exclusive details about what was inside.
This nondescript package was postmarked December 23rd, 2 days before the bombing. It had no return address, but the rambling pages inside left no doubt who it was from. "Hey, dude, you will never believe what I found in the park," reads a cover letter to one of Warner's longtime friends. It was signed by Julio, a name Warner's friends say he often used when sending them emails. It continued, "The knowledge I have gained is immeasurable. I now understand everything, and I mean everything, from who, what we really are, to what the known universe really is." The letter urged the friend to watch some internet videos he included on 2 Samsung thumb drives. On another page, Warner wrote about 9/11 conspiracy theories, ending with the statement that the moon landing and 9/11 have so many anomalies they are hard to count. Warner later wrote that September 2011 was supposed to be the end game for the planet, because that's when he says aliens and UFOs began launching attacks on Earth. He believed the media was covering up those attacks. But Warner's writings grow even more bizarre. At one point, he writes to his friend about reptilians and lizard people that he believed control Earth and had tweaked human DNA. Warner wrote, "They put a switch into the human brain so they could walk among us and appear human." Warner's letters cover a variety of bizarre theories, but he never mentions AT&T or anything else that would suggest a specific motive for the Nashville bombing. Now, while News Channel 5 believes
Steve, that's good. Thank you.
You could hear that, right?
So yeah, we could hear that. Thank you so much. So that tells you just how deep this conspiracy theory goes. There are 12 million followers to this belief. It's pretty deep. It's a deep theory. So now I have one more video to show, if you don't mind, and it is about a lady who claims to have been abducted, and then it's got a little more information at the end of it.
All right, here we go.
England, 2008.
Hold on.
In the middle of the night, 20-year-old
We got to redo it again.
Hove, England, 2008. In the middle of the night, 20-year-old Charmaine de Rosario Sage is sleeping in bed when she awakens to a frightening sight. A reptilian humanoid staring down at her.
I woke up. A reptilian came into the room. We went to an underground cave.
There was a group of reptilians there, and they stood around me in a circle. Each one of them put one hand on my body, and I slowly changed. And it was the most amazing, but also sort of bizarre situation to look down at your body and see it morph from your human form into a reptilian form.
Oh.
See the skin shift from being smooth into scales, and to find that I had a tail.
Could Charmaine's incredible story be true? Was she really transformed into a reptilian human hybrid? Charmaine claims she learned from her abductors that all humans today are byproducts of alien genetic manipulation, some more than others.
At certain points in our history, different ET races have come to this planet, and they have not manipulated all of humanity, but certain groups.
The reason and agenda for alien intelligences to be on this planet manipulating humans and animals is because there are wars out here between different types of intelligences about territory.
I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars. We're going to continue.
And that those territorial wars
I love you, Steve.
involved
I love you too,
populations
Jen.
of created and manipulated life.
If reptilian extraterrestrials have inhabited Earth for thousands of years, are they content to continue hiding out underground? Or is the day fast approaching where they will step out of the shadows and announce their presence once again?
Christians are waiting for the return of Jesus. The Jews are waiting for the return of the Messiah. The Islamic community is waiting for the return of Muhammad. The idea of this return did not originate with any of those religious figures, but it in fact originated with the promise by extraterrestrials that they would return in the future.
Tradition tells us that the army of the Messiah is not to come from heaven, but is to arise from inner earth and therefore dominate the surface world.
Perhaps we are now at this special turning point in our history and the timeline of planet Earth, where the reptilians and the other extraterrestrials will announce themselves.
So yeah, so reptilians, reptoids, and greys are very connected in a lot of ways. They're talked about together a lot, and they begin to be mentioned that they'll be brought together, that they'll come together, but something tells me they're already together.
That makes sense. And then also looking back at some of that video that was just on, what if it's a what if question? What if we weren't the only species on this planet that evolved from our Homo sapien ancestors? The dinosaurs ruled our planet.
That's actually something that I want to talk about. There's an idea that what we call the Panserpia, and it means the all seeds, saying that in the cosmos that there's other life created from other life, saying that as it spreads through, it kind of sprinkles. So some of our life would be part of another inhabitants, and some of the other inhabitants would be part of our life, which would incorporate both of your ideas. Now, there's also a theory that is called direct. It's the direct version, and that's saying that other extraterrestrials came here and essentially planted these seeds in like an experimentation type setting to see what would happen. It's really neat when looking through different ideas as far as current philosophies around extraterrestrial life. There was, what was his name? Sorry. Nicholas Cusa in 1440 said, life as it exists on Earth in the form of men, animals, and plants is to be found, let us suppose, in a high form in the solar regions, saying, rather than think that so many stars and parts of the heavens are uninhabited, and that Earth of ours alone is peopled, and that with beings perhaps of inferior type out there, we will suppose that in every region there are inhabitants differing in nature. It speculates that maybe these beings are more spiritual in nature than materialistic. And as our society as a whole has built itself through materialism and, you know, who has more, who has less, that is probably a reason why some of the extraterrestrials has not reached out to us, because they value like knowledge and intellect over materialism and spiritualism over materialism. Furthermore, there's also been, as we know, the moon. Like, there's always a speculation around moon people, around those of the moon, and this hasn't been anything of new. In the 10th century, there's a Japanese monogatari, which is just essentially a tale it's called The Tale of the Princess, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Kaori. And she was sent to Earth as protection from the moon during celestial wars. And she was to bring peace here to help essentially establish a new order. Now, can all of this be speculated as fact or fiction? It's kind of hard to really say, because I think we would be naive as a whole to assume that there is not other species. And I think we'd also be naive to assume that we are the oldest, and that being
that we're superior.
Right.
I don't think we are. I mean,
No.
Oh,
there's
most
no way.
definitely not. Most definitely not.
Right. So with that idea, then why would it be so far-fetched to think that there may be what we consider extraterrestrials among us?
I think they are.
I personally believe, I mean, I think it'd be naive to assume otherwise, because we as our own human race have discovered so much, and we've learned so much. And recently, there's an evolution within spirituality and understanding that, and knowing how far that has expanded, I think it would, like I said, just be naive to assume that this isn't a possibility. I'm not saying that it's fact or fiction, or that I have scientific hard cold evidence that it is 100% real, but I mean,
it makes more sense than not.
Exactly. And sometimes science is, excluding the things that one may think is impossible. So I'm sorry, this is so interesting to me, because you think about what part is what part is fact and which part is fiction, right? And we look at over the modern times of movies and descriptions and books, and we see the crossovers. And like Steve, as you said, to think that this crossover would come from one separate origin, just one show in what was it, the 50s?
The 50s.
Yeah, to think that would
the 60s. I'm sorry, 60s, 64.
Okay, 60s. Sorry, but to think that would spur all of this.
Yeah,
there has to be more.
The fascination with aliens has gone even in our history. There are cave paintings of beings from the sky all over the world,
right?
In cultures that have never came across each other. The Aztecs in Mexico to the Greeks in the Mediterranean. And
I mean, one thing you can say in common with all those too is that they all seem to have a shape-shifting type of faculties. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all of them seem to have shape-shifting within them, to be able to blend in, to be able to accustom to our our way of life, essentially.
It's
So
an
now
interesting.
it begs the question, in modern times, especially like in spirituality, there's people that believe that they are ancestors of these people, and essentially as time has went on, they have uncoded. So they have lost the ability to tap into that collective, into that consciousness of that other extraterrestrial being. And now it begs the question, is that an ability? Are there people walking among us who are ancestors and descendants of these, just looking for a code, essentially, to be able to activate and begin the ascension of this earth as we know it?
There's the concept, like you just said. If you want to, it's a what if hypothesis here, not saying this is true, but what if demigods? So people like to think that the gods are aliens and that demigods are the product of both a god and a human. Hercules, Perseus, all sorts, all sorts. I remember reading one time in my intro to European history, and we were talking about Vikings,
Mhm.
and they mentioned that there was certain tribes assorted with certain deities, and one was the sons of Thor. They
Right.
were all claiming to be the children of Thor. So could that be?
I mean, maybe that is our understanding. There's also that theory that our understanding of God and gods is actually our way of rationalizing aliens.
Perhaps
That,
the human
that's
mind.
actually what I think, is that the first gods that we know of are aliens, are aliens, whatever, that they came to us first, created us, did what they did, and that's what we know of as gods, and it has been transcribed and retranscribed a billion different ways over the centuries.
Exactly.
I'm
Like,
someone who definitely agrees with the evolutionary theory. That is 100% my thing. But what I was going to say is perhaps the human mind cannot concept or grasp the idea of a
so
superior being. Go ahead.
talking about the evolutionary theory. So you know how we're
Don't hurt
constantly
me.
looking for that. Okay, so yeah. So you know how we're looking for that missing link, right?
Yes.
There's also a theory saying that we started out in this genetic process and it was no longer evolving, and that the aliens came down and genetically altered us to continue to evolve into what we are now. And that's the time of the missing link. So there's that
Interesting.
theory too.
I like that theory. That's pretty interesting.
Right. I just wanted to come in, essentially give some food for thought before we leave tonight, because this is a lot to grasp, to think outside of our world and to see the vastness, like we talked before, the vast nothingness that keeps expanding. Like the more we think we know, the more we find out we really don't know. So to think that aliens, the gray people, or reptilians are not viable, I think would be naive. And
I mean, we're a tiny speck on a
Even more
mass.
tinier speck. We're
Yeah.
on a tiny speck on a
Yes.
tiny speck.
Exactly. We're a tiny blue dot, as Carl Sagan says. A tiny blue dot. That's all we are.
I mean, just now we're looking through the Hubble and we're seeing whole solar systems. I mean, like, whole galaxies. And to think that none of them hold this type of life that's more advanced, that has been through more, that understands more, that has the ability to come and live among us, I think it's just statistically, like, it'd be naive. Like I said, I just keep saying that. It'd be naive not to think so. Statistically, it would be more probable to have that than it would be not.
All I know that I can think of is if the day ever comes that aliens show up or reveal themselves, or they actually already have, in my opinion, but
Right.
life for the human race will completely change, and it could either go down a good route or a bad route.
I think it depends on our people.
It could also depend on the kind of species that came in contact with us. Like the idea of, what's the theory called? Humans have been doing it for centuries. That there's an age called the colonial time for it. The idea that a superior alien race could do that to us scares the living daylights out of me.
Yep. I mean, we don't know. We won't know until we know. You know, it's one of the. It's
And I don't
unfortunately one of
think
those little things in life.
I don't think it's going to end like an Independence Day did.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. But that's what I
Jokes
have for you
aside.
guys tonight. It's just a little food for thought, some ideas, a little bit of science coming at you, a little.
Well, this was definitely a very fun lounge topic to deal with, and I can't wait to see what we do next week.
Yes.
Please, everybody, if you're enjoying this series, give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications when we come on, and we will see you next week. Stay
guys.
weird, everybody.
Stay weird. Love y'all.
Bye, guys. Stay weird.